Welcome everyone. I'd just like to call on our CEO to open tonight with the opening karakia.
Thanks your worship. Tuia ki ronga, tuia ki raro, tuia ki waho, tuia ki roto, tuia ki te tere tangata, ka ronga te whau, ka ronga te ao, umie, tuie, ka ai. Thanks your worship.
Kia ora, Steve. I'd also now, as always, health and safety. Nothing happens without that. Jules, have you got the health and safety?
I think Steve's going.
Steve's going to do that. As you can see, it's a tag team that we're working it through.
Right, so sorry, health and safety, very simple. Exits, the green lights, the one that's not lit, but it's still an exit. Toilets are this way, several out in the car park. And also just to be aware that we are recording the session tonight, more so the presentation than anything else, just so that we can make it available on websites so people can see it later as well.
Thank you, Steve. And welcome again, everyone. Well done. First thing that democracy has to have is participation. So thank you for coming along here tonight. I will introduce those that are speaking tonight. So Richard Saunders, Head of ORC. Richard will be speaking. Dale Osowski. So Dale is Clutha's Electoral Officer, and now your official title is?
Electoral Officer.
Nothing's changed. Not of Clutha's. So just so that everyone knows, I want to thank and welcome my councillors that are here tonight. Any councillor that's here under the Electoral Act is not able to speak. There's restraints. Once a councillor is elected, when you get into the last 90 days, you're into the 90-day restriction period. So unfortunately, they couldn't come up here and take a profile that would be advantageous over the, say, Trevor, if Trevor wants to be a candidate as well. So they're here as candidates, but if you're wondering why they're not speaking, that's the case. I also want to acknowledge staff, both the Clutha District and ORC. Thanks for coming, team. And please, can everyone, it is being recorded, so know that it's being recorded. Just so that you know what's happening tonight, what we're going to do is there'll be a few of us giving an overview of various aspects of what it is to be a candidate and the wider local government issues. Then we go into what I think is the most important part, where you get to ask the questions and we can tease out those nuances that are of interest to you. So the first person that we're going to have tonight is, so what the sequence will be, so that you know exactly what you're doing if you've got questions on that. Our CEO Steve will be presenting in a minute, followed by Richard, then followed by myself, followed by Dale. Then we have myself, then we have Q&A. So the first one, Steve, welcome, floor's yours.
Thanks, your worship. First of all, welcome everybody, those people that are just considering dipping their toe into the water of representation as an elected member. Anybody that's just interested and hasn't made a decision themselves but want to learn more about it. But the objective of tonight is to try and give you some information that you can take away and think about and assist you in making your decision should you choose to stand as a candidate for any number of actual elections that we are having in October. So that's the objective of this process tonight. We've got a different district council perspective, and we've got a regional council perspective, and our electoral officer is, with Dale being here, is going to be speaking about the wider election information as well. So hopefully with Q&A afterwards, we'll be able to get through things that are of interest to you as potential candidates. Remember, the objective is just purely about what you need to know as a candidate. It isn't about local matters, regional council or CDC matters or things like that. We're just looking at it from a candidate perspective. So just briefly, the slides that I'm putting here tonight is just to give you an idea of the breadth of the activity for which you would be a governor for should you wish to stand as a candidate for Clutha District Council. So what do we do? One of the big things is community leadership, elected members, community boards, governance support, decision making, strategic direction, and interestingly, you as elected members, you employ only one person, which is the chief executive. Right? The chief executive employs everybody else, but you are an employer as governors, and you do have to be a good employer under law as well. So that's something to bear in mind. Sorry, I also mentioned, I think at the bottom of the slide was economic development. So we have a role to play in economic development. We contract that out at the moment through Clutha Development, regional tourism, and community development. That's another activity not often understood by people, but it has a lot of fingers in community groups and community activities. We do a lot of support for community activities around the district. Infrastructure, which is the ones that you would probably be more aware of, particularly where there is direction around putting a lot of effort into pipes and potholes and things like that. So as you would expect, we have a big role to play in all those infrastructure related requirements, but we also are responsible for regulatory and emergency services. Again, community services and facilities, so there's a whole range there. We know about toilets, but it's the parks, it's the reserves, it's the sports grounds, the libraries, the cemeteries, the halls, right throughout the district, and also community housing, because we have a portfolio of housing for the elderly as well. And then in terms of internal services, there's a whole part of our activity that's just supporting everything else we do. And to give you an example of the size of the business and size of the activity that you would be potential governors for, it's $1.5 billion of assets that you would govern for, that we maintain and manage. There's $28 million in investments that we don't want to lose in any way. There's $150 million in debt that we are responsible for servicing. And every year we get approximately $35 million in rates revenue. Right? So this might be considered a rural provincial council, relatively small in terms of councils within New Zealand, but it's not a small business. Right? And governors of it are really, really important to how that business moves on and progresses and grows and improves. So that's just in a nutshell the sort of activity that you would be responsible for through governance as a result. The other thing I thought I'd mention is they always say elected members have a lot of paperwork, and tonight I'm not going to be a person that's going to suggest there's no paperwork when you're an elected member, and there's certainly a heck of a lot of that around. But if I was to suggest to you, if you were doing some due diligence to get a picture of the council and its business and what are the key matters that you would be wanting to get interested into as being a potential governor, then of course there is the candidate booklet, which will tell you a little bit about the council, but also and the council activity, but also a lot more about the process for the elections. There's the pre-election report, which hasn't yet been published, but will be published on or before the 18th of July, which is a statutory requirement that is a document that I have to approve. It's independent of the elected members, and there is some law associated with that that's supposed to spell out the position of council at the time. So you are aware, coming into the position, if you are elected as a councillor, you are aware of the factual position of the council. So there's some law associated with that, but that's a really important document. So when that's published, you should be ensuring that you get a copy of that and you go through that. But the other ones that I would also commend to you would be certainly council's long-term plan. That's a 10-year planning document that's still correct or extant as of this time. But it also goes through to 10 years to 34, but also goes through to the 30 to 50 year period as well. It's referenced in these documents. And again, as governors, you'll be approving these, right? There's another one due in a couple of years, so this will be your job if you are elected into the council. Every year there is an annual plan, so there's a 12-month planning document that you would be approving as well, and that is the current one for actually this next financial year from July through to June 2026, so that's a very relevant document. And then the last one I've got is the only current annual report finishes in 23-24, but it's the one of the actual what happened, what was spent, and why. So, you know, they're quite big documents, but they are really important if you want to really understand the goings on of council, in addition to the pre-election report. So that was all my intention for tonight, I believe, for CDC, and happy to shift over to Richard, I think it's.
Sorry, I'll do that. Thank you for that, Steve, appreciate it, and certainly I think any of the councillors that are here tonight will know the overwhelming amount of paperwork that you have to read in preparation. As part of local government, you have to realise that there is a hierarchy to the system. The government, central government, regional council, district council. National policy statements, regional policy statements. Hold on, we're still at the bottom there. I like the system actually because I'm not strong as an environmentalist, and I've always felt that the regional council specialising especially in environmental was good, that someone was there to tell me, give me guidance, shall we say. So realise that it's an entirely different beast. You probably have to tick more the way of an environmentalist if you're going to go on the regional council, but really looking forward to hearing Sarah Richard explain a few things to us.
Thanks, Brian. Kia ora koutou. I would like to hear the response from a few of our current councillors that they're all environmentalists. I think that you've probably been having a few good chats with them about that label, but obviously, yeah, look, good to be here. Just a big thanks to Steve and Brian and the team for including ORC in the candidate evening. Certainly is helpful to come along and do this collectively instead of sort of running our own session. Just come and have a chat about both of the levels of local government that operate in this area. So I've got a similar sort of discussion to run through as Steve, just to give you a bit of an idea about what it is that the regional council does and what you could expect if you are interested in standing for the regional council. Just acknowledge Councillor McCall, who's here tonight, who's had experience on both councils, currently one of our Molyneux members at the regional council. In terms of questions at the end, just welcome to our staff, to Amanda, Deb and Di down the back. Are the experts in the space? I'm certainly not. I'll do my best at the end, but I'd certainly encourage anyone that's got any questions to go and have a chat to them at the end. So we'll start off with this big beast of a slide. So what this shows is the strategic directions that the council set as part of the long-term plan process that Steve referred to a couple of years ago. It's a core role of elected members to set the strategy for the council, and then staff role is to give effect and to deliver for that to that strategy. And using this document effectively keeps staff accountable that delivery is the direction that the council is setting for us. Having a clear strategy is, as a part of that long-term plan, is super important to make sure that everyone's clear that the direction that the council's heading, and that the decisions that are being made as we move through that 3-year cycle are consistent with the direction that the council, the governance table, sets for us at the start of that period. So that what you can see up there in terms of the strategic priorities that our current council set for us gives us guidance as staff, and then a big part of the job for the new council will be working through the process of updating this as part of our next long-term plan process. We've got some challenges coming. We know that there is reform. There's reform in the resource management space that the government has already commenced. We've heard recently talk about reform of regional councils as a whole, so we are likely to be facing some challenges in that space as well. And like Clutha and all other councils in New Zealand, we're just facing big challenges in the cost of doing business. And we know that there is a real interest in councils being able to control spending to support our communities to manage that overall cost of living. Again, having a good strategy set by our council ensures that we're spending money on the right things and enables us to make those decisions and trade-offs to be able to run at a lower cost overall. So again, for me, in terms of the role of CE and the planning we do with staff, the strategic direction we get from our governance table, very, very important in that space. So what is it that we do with that strategy? All very good to have a strategy, you've actually got to go and do something. So in the ORC business is divided into 4 areas. It's, obviously there is a difference in terms of the regional scale, so we'll cover off, we cover 5 territorial local authority areas within Otago, so it is a large area. However, we work very closely within communities, so either with the councils or directly with community groups within pockets of our region. So it is as far as our work goes, we flex from being large regional issues right down to more local issues where we're dealing specifically with communities of interest. We operate under a number of different pieces of legislation. So we've got the Resource Management Act being a key one, but Brian referred to our environmental role, and most of our work in the environmental space is done under the Resource Management Act. But we also work under the Local Government Act, the Land Transport Act, Civil Defence Emergency Management, Biosecurity, Maritime Safety. There's a number of pieces of legislation. Certainly not the role for councillors to understand every piece of legislation, every detail within it, but just getting an understanding of what the core responsibilities are from the council, and our job as staff is to ensure that you are well informed when you're making your decisions. A big focus for the council, particularly in the last few years, has been working with different groups in the community more in a non-regulatory space. So while we continue our regulatory work, particularly in the environmental space and through COVID and the investment made by the government, some of the biggest gains made in environmental spaces have come in non-regulatory and support for community and catchment groups to undertake that work out in the community. And that's become a big focus for the council and remains a priority for us. So regulatory important, but actually we've found that community-driven non-regulatory work has been a really powerful way to make some change in the community and actually allow the community to drive a lot of that work. In this area, we work with Clutha closely in emergency management. Land and water planning, the flood scheme management is really important, and another area we work very closely with the Clutha team. And then obviously we also have a role as a regulator for a number of the district council activities as well, and that's part of our role right across Otago. And the idea there, as best we can, is to work alongside the territorial authorities to try and encourage compliance and good practice and build those relationships that ultimately get a better outcome. So our business is broken into those 4 areas. So we've got regional leadership, which covers the governance space and community engagement, regional planning and urban development, which is where all of our statutory plans are written within that function. And our regulatory functions also sit under regional leadership. So our consenting and our compliance work, we have a harbour master function. Safety and resilience, so that emergency management, the natural hazard and associated with that, the flood protection and our river management, so that's a huge function. Obviously a very active function down here. We've got offices right around the region. We've got one right on the river, across the other side of the state highway. It'll be the best view of all of the ORC offices. And that's mainly houses our flood and drainage staff that work down in those lower Clutha schemes. In the environment space, we've got our land and water work. Protection of fresh water is a real focus for regional councils. It's a big issue. And so how do we ensure that the fresh water is available to be used to support communities, to support economic, but also are we protecting that fresh water so it can sustain that function long term? Biodiversity and biosecurity. big issues, and air quality is becoming a bigger issue over time as well. So those things all sit with the environment function. And then the transport function, and that is mainly around public transport. So we don't have public transport services in Clutha at the moment, but we have heard the message loud and clear that they are desired, and we've got some work coming up to have a look at how they might be able to be introduced under the current government settings. So very diverse. Again, Steve's slide before showed the diversity within the Clutha District Council within ORC. Again, huge diversity of work for councillors to get their teeth into. In terms of the last council meeting we had regional public transport planning, we had the annual plan approved, we had a discussion around an environmental fund, a community environmental fund, a new $2 million fund, we had a biodiversity strategy, a climate change strategy, Port Otago, which is wholly owned by ORC, so we had the statement of corporate intent for Port Otago also come through the council meeting. So hugely diverse agendas and significant range of matters to deal with. The wards within ORC, so there has been some changes this year. First change would be to STV, and I think there'll be a little bit of information on that later. So if you are standing for ORC, the change there means that voters will rank using numbers rather than just tick a preferred candidate. And there will be information in the voting packs that make sure that that's clear for people when they're voting. We undertook a representation review last year, and that has led to a change. So what we had prior in the previous election, we had 6 councillors in the Dunedin constituency, 1 in Modaki, 2 in Molyneux, and 3 in Dunstan. And you'll see from the diagram above, one of those councillors from the Dunedin constituency has now shifted across to Dunstan. And that was a result of population changes that have been occurring over in that Queenstown Lakes area. So that's a shift for the makeup of our council that will come out of this next election. And just important to note there, while there are wards, the oath taken at the start of the council term is that you are there to represent the whole region. So the decisions that you take are in the best interest of the Otago region rather than the ward that you're there to represent. In terms of how governance works at the ORC, so for the current term we're holding monthly council meetings and then our committee cycle is every 2 months. We host our meetings over 2 consecutive days, so we'll have committees one day and then council the next, which just reflects that we have councillors travelling from around the region to be there, so we just try and group things as best we can to enable those travelling councillors to come in to Dunedin. We also host meetings, a couple of meetings a year. We'll move them around to the different territorial local authority areas. So we're in Oamaru next month, losing track. So we do move them around as well and host outside of Dunedin. But the bulk of the meetings are held in Dunedin, and they're held in those 2-day blocks to allow people, the travelling councillors, to come in and attend and then get back to where they need to. We live stream meetings, and there is the opportunity for councillors to call in online, which has become more normal again since the COVID changes, and we do have councillors that will attend remotely from time to time. We've popped the remuneration up there for your information. Obviously that information is all available through our material, but that's there for people that are interested. And then another slight difference from the Clutha District Council is that the inaugural meeting of the Regional Council is held to elect the chair and then the deputy chair. So we don't have a mayor as such. We have 12 councillors appointed or elected under that those 12 from the slide before, and then they will elect a chair. So that the first meeting, it's a little bit slower for things to get going within Regional Council, because effectively that first meeting is just to elect the chair and deputy chair, and then we sort of start the meeting cycles from that point forward. So we need to get that job done first before we start tackling the actual work program proper. So that is about it from me. More information about standing. So there's a bit of information here tonight. There's plenty on the website, and similar to Clutha, there'll be a pre-election report available by the 18th of July. And we have some staff here tonight. Otherwise, I'd just say, yeah, the website's a good one, or get in touch with any of us as you need to. Thanks, everyone. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you for that, Richard. We've met the two teams and now we're going to meet the referees. So if there's one thing that I've seen change in politics in recent years, it's the latitude that a politician gets to actually make a choice. But one thing I do agree with, one referee that I do agree with, is what Dale does, because at election time everyone has to have a fair chance. You as a candidate have to be treated the same as you as a candidate, but let's face it, we're human and we all push the boundaries. There is consequence if you push the boundaries too far, and Dale's here to tell us about it. Thank you, Dale.
Hello, Brian. Hello, everyone. My name's Dale Ofsosky, and I'm the electoral officer for Clutha District. I'm also the electoral officer for a number of other local authorities across New Zealand, including, for my sins, Auckland Council. So I've been conducting elections now for a long time, 40 years. I started very young, but 40 years I've been running them, and every triennial election throws something different. It really does. You think you've covered everything off, and then all of a sudden, in a triennial election year, something new pops up which we have to deal with. So without further ado, it's really hard without sort of seeing behind you. So the agenda really is going to cover off how do I become a candidate, what do I need to know about campaigning, and how does the voting work. So this time round is going to be slightly different. We're going to talk about the electoral systems, but there are going to be two electoral systems this time round. We have had two in the past, and we had district health boards, but this time round Clutha District is going to retain the first past the post, and the Otago Regional Council are going to establish single transferable voting as their electoral system. So just to kick off, some key terms: CDC Clutha District Council, CLT Clutha Licensing Trust, MLT is Mataura Licensing Trust, CDHI is the Goran District Health Incorporated, ORC is Otago Regional Council. An elector is a person who is eligible to vote and who is enrolled. It's really, really important that you might be 18 or 25 or something like that, but unless you are enrolled to vote, you cannot vote. So you've got to be enrolled to be on the parliamentary roll, and therefore you can be entitled to vote. The electoral roll is a list of electors who are either on the Māori or general roll. So some key dates. First milestone has been met. That is 4th of July, last Friday. Nominations open. So we kicked off on last Friday, and we have until midday on the 1st of August for nominations to close. The next milestone will be voting will open, and that will open on the 9th of September. That's a little earlier than we've had in the past, and I'll explain a little bit later why that is. We had some legislative changes, but voting will open on the 9th of September, and there will be 4.5-week voting period. No longer a 3-week voting period, but 4.5-week voting period, and that will close at midday on Saturday the 11th of October. With regard to results, we'll have progress results shortly after that, and early afternoon on that Saturday the 11th, and we'll have the preliminary results on the Sunday the 12th, and the final results will be available by Friday the 17th of October. So just some basic background information. Clutha District, population of around 18,750 with about 12,700 electors. Candidates will be listed on the voting document in alphabetical order. For the licensing trust, slightly fewer electors, about 11,400 in the Clutha District, majority of the Clutha District, and again candidates will be listed in alphabetical order. And for the Mataura Licensing Trust, that's a very small portion of about 100 electors in Clutha District. Goran District Health Incorporated, there's about 2,500 electors, and of course the Otago Regional Council covers the whole district, and it's about the 12,700 electors, and that's the Molyneux constituency. And the candidates will be listed in random order. I've got that right? You changed it? Yeah, in random order. So there will be differences. Clutha District will be in alphabetical, first past the post. Otago Regional Council will be in random order, and STV. So we have, what are we electing? So like the Regional Council, Clutha District undertook a representation review over the last couple of years and realigned a number of things, and now have streamlined down to 9 councillors from 8 wards, and I've listed them up there. So that's the elections of the wards, and then of course we still have retained the 2 community boards, each electing 6 members. In addition, we have the Clutha Licensing Trust electing...
No, sorry, that's the remuneration slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
That's got my back to that. So, stand here. So there's the remuneration. This is the latest one, Jules.
It's the
It's only just come
generation.
out.
Yeah.
So there you go. If you're looking at what the mayor might be paid, 134,000. Well, you can basically see deputy mayor 52,000 down to 50, down to the basic councillor at 41,000, and your community board chairs 6,700, and your ordinary member about 3,300. So that's the latest remuneration. It gets revised annually from the Remuneration Authority, so that'll be revised in 12 months' time. So that's the sort of, we get that question asked a lot. Well, we're standing for election, what do we actually get paid? Not that we do it for the money, but that's the information that you need. Allowances. So we do have allowances. So council pays elected members allowances. They have a vehicle allowance. I believe that comes out from the government department annually, is it?
To the remuneration decision.
Yeah, the $1.04. Yes, that's right. There's travel time. There's a computer allowance, childcare allowance, home security system allowance. That's new. That's just come in from. Local government New Zealand, or yes,
from 1 July this year.
That's right. And there's an allowance to based on risk assessment and an operating cost for that as well. And that's quite a topical issue because there's been a lot of talk and of safety of elected members in our communities, and it's really of concern that a lot of elected members do get threatened, and this is one way of countering that by making your home at least feel safe. We have had reports of some elected members, particularly female elected members, scared to go home at night if they're living by themselves because of threats or whatever it is. So this is one way to help with that. Okay, so we have the Clutha Licensing Trust, 5 members elected, and the Mataura Licensing Trust, 3 members elected from 1 each from those 3 wards. Now the Clutha Health Trust, you may notice that that's missing. We are not having an election for the Clutha Health Trust this time round. They've indicated that there will be no election, so that's one less issue or election that we have to worry about on our voting document. So that's just hot off the press, that news. Otago Regional Council, you had a much better map of your constituency, so we've covered off that. Richard's covered off that, so I won't go into detail with it. Your electoral systems. So Clutha District, Clutha Licensing Trust, Mataura Licensing Trust, and Raw District are all using first past the post. So that's a system. You vote by ticking the candidate names. We're all familiar with that. Candidates with the highest number of votes wins, but don't vote for more candidates than the number of positions. So if there are 2 positions and you vote for 3, it's invalid. Okay, we can't count it. You can count up to 3. You can vote for you can vote for 1 or 2 or 3, but if you count for more than that, then it becomes invalid. So there's an example there, quite straightforward and easily understood. With Regional Council moving to single transferable voting, STV, it's a form of preferential voting. A number of councils are now moving to this form of voting. You vote by ranking your candidate names in order of preference. So you might have 12 candidates and you rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever you want to do, as long as you have a 1. You must have a 1. So if there's 3 vacancies and you've got 12 names, you don't have to vote for 3, you can vote for 4 or 2 or 12, but you must have a 1 and it must be sequential. So you must go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you go 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, we count 1 and 2 preferences, but we stop there because we've got 2 3s and we don't know which is the 3. So you've just got to be mindful when you're changing, you're moving from first past the post with the district council to a numbering system for the regional council. And it's a quota system that determines the number of votes needed. And as I said earlier, you can rank as many or as few as you like. So it's entirely your choice. And there it is there. We simply just number them 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So to be a candidate, you must be a New Zealand citizen, primary. You must be aged 18 or over, and you must be enrolled on the parliamentary roll anywhere in New Zealand. Now a lot of people say, oh, I thought we had to be on the roll here for Clutha district. No, you can be anywhere in New Zealand on the roll. So you can be in Invercargill and stand here if you like. The big but is you must be nominated by 2 electors from the area that you're standing in. So I've given an example there. If you're standing for the Milton ward, your nomination must be signed by 2 people enrolled on the electoral roll in the Milton ward area. So you can live anywhere, but you must be nominated by two electors from the area you're standing in. Another one, if you're standing for the West Otago Community Board, your nomination must be signed by 2 people enrolled on the West Otago Community Board area. So it's quite simple. Anywhere, but you must be nominated by 2 electors from the area you're standing in. You can stand for multiple positions. So you can stand for mayor, and you can stand for council, and you can stand for a community board. No issues there. You can stand for those. If you're fortunate enough to be elected to more than one, you take the higher position. So if you're standing for council and the community board, you take the higher position. If you're standing for mayor and council, you take the higher position, which is the mayor. Can't stand for more than 1 ward. A lot of people think, oh, you know, I live there, I have a business here, can I stand in 2 wards? No, you can't. You must choose one of the wards and that's it. Same with your community boards. You can't stand for the district council and the regional council. Again, you've got to choose. Which council would I like to represent? Which could I serve better? The district council or the regional council? Elected members or your spouses cannot have a contract with the council over 25,000 in 1 financial year. So if you have a contract with either council, if you have a contract 25,000 or more a year, you must. There's extra steps that you must take. And it generally involves discussion with the Office of Auditor General, and we go through that process with them. But it is an extra step. It's not necessarily a barrier, but it is. You need to be aware that it is an extra step. Council employees, they could stand for office too. Nothing to prevent that. If they are elected to the mayor or council, they must resign. So if you're a council employee and you get elected to mayor or council, there's a conflict of interest there, so you must resign. However, if you get elected to the community board as a staff member, you don't have to resign. So there's a little aberration there in the legislation, but that's what the legislation allows for. And the last thing is you can't nominate yourself. So it's very clear. You're standing, you must have 2 people in the community to nominate you. So we're into nomination period. First off, obtain one of these. They've got some over there. It's the Candidate Information Handbook. It's really a good resource. Lots of information in there for you as a candidate to have a read of. It's also available electronically. You can download one from the council's website, have a hard copy. It contains everything about nomination material, the election signage rules, legislation. We've tried to incorporate as much as the relevant legislation in here as it impacts on you. So have a look at that. Be aware of the do's and don'ts from this, because other candidates will be aware of the do's and don'ts. And if you fall and do something wrong, I soon know about it, because they have read the book and you may not have read the book. So my advice is have a good, thorough read of that resource. Right, nominations opened on last Friday, as I said. I'm talking here for Clutha District. 3 ways to submit your nomination. The first one is you can go online. Now this is new for us. We had legislative change last year to enable this. We're quite excited about it. It's basically paperless. I'll tell you a little bit more shortly. But you can go online, you can register, you can come and go as you like, and you can attach all of your material, and you can submit everything electronically. You can communicate with your 2 nominators electronically, and it can be submitted electronically. It's a real easy way to do it, but there will be parts of the community that, no, that's not for me. So we do have an editable PDF that's online, so you can fill it out online and then print it out and bring it in. Or the old way is you get a hard copy, and we have them available. Get a hard copy one and fill it out. Go around to your nominators, get their signatures, attach everything to it, and submit it to the council office. So bear in mind, when you submit a nomination, the law says all parts of that nomination must be submitted together. So if you're submitting a profile statement or photograph or whatever it is, all has to come in together. So you can't submit part and say, oh, I'll come back tomorrow when I'll get my photograph taken. Can't do that. You have to take the nomination away. Or our staff will say you can't lodge part of a nomination. It must be the complete one. So on the online one, there's no printing, handwriting, scanning. One of the issues that we have for paper copies is interpreting people's handwriting. We do struggle with that sometimes. If you could see some of the handwriting that is submitted, we have to try and interpret that and get it right. So with the online, everything's typed out, which is really good for us and nice and clear. You can enter your statement electronically. That's your 150 words. That will stop at 150 words, so there's another check there. You can upload your photograph, and you can instantly confirm who your nominators are, because it's linked to the electoral roll. So if you're standing in West Otago Community Board, for example, it will link through to the West Otago Community Board electoral roll, and when you put your nominator in, it'll say, yes, this is a good one. No, we can't find that person. One of the pitfalls on that is that you must enter in the exact name as it appears on the electoral roll. So someone knows Ted Smith. You can't put Ted Smith in, because probably on the electoral roll is Edward William Smith or something like that. That's the name, the formal name that we have to put in there, so that we can go back to the electoral roll and make sure that's a valid name. So each nomination requires certain things. So first of all, it's mandatory to have a deposit. That's $200, which includes GST, for each position standing. So if you're standing for the mayor and council, it's $400. So it's each position. With that sum of money, it is a deposit. Most candidates get their deposit back. You've got to poll greater than 25% of the lowest success, or 25% of the votes cast, basically, for both STV and first past the post. So most candidates do get that back. It's really a deposit. The law requires it. It's really to stop flippant nominations, that sort of thing. There is an ability to submit a candidate profile statement. It is 150 words. You can have that in English. You can also have 150 words in Te Reo Māori, but they must be largely consistent. So you can't get 300 words with something completely different messaging. So 150 in English, which must be largely translated into 150 in Te Reo. You can also have other languages if you want to, but it must total 150 words. So depending on your community makeup, you could have 50 in English, you could have 50 in Mandarin, and you could have 50 in other languages, Hindi or something like that if you have a contingent in your community. Recent passport size colour photo. It's really, really important, I think, that you submit that. Some candidates do not submit photographs. The electors out there, when they're voting, want to see what you look like. And I'm speaking from a person running elections. We get this comment, where's that person's photograph? Oh, they didn't submit it. Oh, they don't get a vote. So it's really important to do that. Evidence of New Zealand citizenship. So this is a requirement. Well, it's not a legal requirement. We ask for it, and that is provide a copy of your passport or a birth certificate or something like that to tell me that you're a New Zealand citizen. It was not compulsory. It's still not as compulsory, and we never used to ask for it. We got tripped up one year where someone submitted their nomination. They came to New Zealand when they were 2, thought that they were automatically a New Zealand citizen, got elected to a ward position. This was challenged when we asked the candidate, can you provide evidence of your citizenship? They couldn't because they weren't a citizen. And we had a very expensive by-election. So since then, we now ask, we can't enforce it, but for your own safety, we say, please provide just a copy of your passport. Candidates can declare an affiliation, so that can be any group or organisation that you may belong to. It could be a Ratepayer Association, Ratepayer Federation, or any of those organisations, that's fine. You can have the word independent. Independent basically means you're making a statement, I'm not actually aligned with anyone, I am purely independent. Or you can leave that blank. You don't have to have anything showing, and that's perfectly fine as well. And a lot of people choose not to have anything showing as an affiliation. What we don't allow is a slogan. So I don't allow Vote for Dale as an affiliation, and I don't allow anything that's indecent or slanderous for obvious reasons. Also required in your nomination a statement on your principal place of residence, whether you live within the area you're standing or live outside of the area you're standing in. It's quite acceptable to live outside of the area, but you must state it, you must tell me, and that goes on the candidate profile booklet that goes out to all electors. So it's just another piece of information that the electors would like to know that person's a local or not. So that will be on your nomination paper. And any other positions you're standing for. Again, electors want to know, oh, this person's standing for the Mayor, Council and Community Board. So it's just another piece of information for them to know, and they'll probably vote accordingly. So nominations, they close at 12 noon on the 1st of August. It's a Friday. They close at 12 noon sharp. Please don't leave it to the last minute. If you've got a problem, if you've got an issue with it, there has to be enough time to get it fixed. So you run into the office at 5 to 12 and we can't find one of your nominators on the roll, you've got 5 minutes to get it fixed. And I've seen all sorts of things happening. I've seen people running out, shoulder tapping complete strangers, will you nominate me, and all this sort of stuff. Get it in plenty of time so that we can do all the checking, come back to you, you can go away satisfied at 12 o'clock that a valid nomination has been approved. So this is just an example of a good and bad nomination, if you like. This is a situation here as a candidate standing for mayor. They've supplied an affiliation, which you don't need to do. Their principal place of residence is in the area they're standing for, but they don't need to be. They have supplied a photo and they have supplied a statement. So that is what the electors are going to see. This one, on the other hand, is a complete, and you can see the contrast. Candidate is also standing for mayor. They have not supplied an affiliation, which is fine. Their principal place of residence is not in the area, that's fine. They've not supplied a photograph and they have not supplied a statement. So you can see the difference there. And as a voter, I know which I'll be looking for because that's got more information. That shows me who the person is compared to that one. Well, they haven't bothered to produce a photo, they haven't provided a statement, so that they'll draw their own conclusions. So voter eligibility, so you're general and Maori, if you're on both those roles, you can vote for 6 issues, obviously the mayor, the ward councillors, the community board members if you live in a community board area, the regional council constituency councillors, depending on the ward of the licensing trust, you can vote for 1 to 5 members of the licensing trust, and if you're in a particular area, the Gore District Health member. On to campaigning. So campaigning can occur any time. So a lot of people say, particularly over the last few weeks, oh, when can I start? Do I have to start campaign? Do I have to wait till nominations open? I said, no. You could have been starting 2 or 3 months ago. In fact, some jurisdictions, they started campaigning at Christmas time, informally, of course. So campaigning any time, that's fine. However, there is a election science policy for Clutha. Election signs can only go up 2 months before election day, so that's from the 11th of August. So they must be removed by midnight of the day before election, so midnight on the 10th of October. So Be a good idea to have a read of their elections policy. It is in our handbook, but the full policy, of course, is on the District Council website. If signs in other council areas, check their respective council policies. So if you're standing for the regional council, for example, you might want to check other neighbouring territorial authority sign policy if your constituency spreads over more than one district council. All election advertisements must show contact details of authorising person. This is compulsory, this is a must under the Act. So any promotion that you do, any advertisements, whether it be a sign, a notice, a pamphlet, web page, using a vehicle, whatever, must have an authorisation statement. Very simple, authorised by Joe Bloggs, and then you can either provide a website, a telephone number, a email. You no longer have to provide a physical address. A few years ago, you had to provide your place of residence, and that upset a number of people, particularly women candidates, who had to put where they lived, and that was out on all their material, and that has since changed. So you can now have a website or a email or something like that. If you're using your mobile number, you might want to think twice about putting your personal mobile number, because it will go public, and you don't want to get mobile calls at 2 o'clock in the morning from unusual calls. So if you're having put something on social media, you put it on your home page. You do not need to put it on every post, tweet, or message. It's too, we can't manage that. Just put it once on your main page. So it's still on social media. Great way to campaign. It really is. It's instant, it's far-reaching, and above all, it's free. So it's a good way of reaching out there. You can promote yourself and your policies and all sorts of messaging on your social media. Fake news, not acceptable. It's a hard one to monitor and manage, but we advise everyone, stay away from that. Also, stay away from council's media channels. Council must be neutral. In any election, council must remain neutral. Cannot have a view, cannot support any members or particular candidates. It's arm's length. And so anything that's on the council social media that is a hint of campaigning or anything like that will be removed. So just bear that in mind. Cyber security, keep safe. It's been around for a long time. We're all very aware of the dangers of that. It's a bad world out there. Just be aware of that. And as I said earlier, your offences. The legislation is quite specific of what you can and can't do. You need to know what you can and can't do. Donations. So you can receive donations, so you can receive as much money as you like. Okay, there's no limit to what you can receive to help fund your campaign. There is a requirement if it's anonymous, it has to be truly anonymous. So you can't think, well, I think I know who that person is. You actually have to truly know, I've got no idea who that person is. A $100 note just appeared under my front door and I've got no idea where it's from. So there's no limit to that. With an anonymous donation, if you actually receive over $1,500 anonymously, the law says you can't. But if you do, the different, say you receive 2,500 anonymously, the limit is 1,500. The other 1,000 comes to me to offset the cost of the election, not to me personally, but to offset the cost of the election. But there is a limit to how much you can spend. So this is determined by the area that you're standing for the Cleveland District Council anyway. If you're standing for the mayor, you can spend up to $14,000. For all the wards and the community boards, maximum of $3,500. It's not a lot. That's why you might want to think of social media and all that sort of thing. So that's the limit that you have to adhere to. So these figures include GST, another trap there. So people think, oh, I've got $3,500, I'll go right to the max and then add GST on. You can't do that, it's got to be included with GST. And you can't add them together, so you might say, oh, I'm going to stand for the mayor and I'm going to stand for a ward, so that's $17,500 I've got to spend. The law says, no, you can't do that, you take the highest. So you must cap it at $14,000. There is a form here on the back of the nomination paper. return of electoral donations and expenses form, it looks like that. That has to be returned to me after the 11th. So that's by the 11th of December. It must be completed. If you don't spend a penny, then put nil in here, but it must be returned. And that form is actually available for public inspection for 7 years. It goes on Council's website, a very public document. Make sure it's accurate, all right? So don't try and falsify anything or fudge anything. The media in particular like looking at those and checking things, if you like. Nearly there, on to voting. Voting starts on the 9th of September to 12 noon on the 11th of October. As I said, that date has been brought forward, and that's largely, we have a longer voting period of 4.5 weeks rather than 3 weeks, and that's largely to deal with the mail delivery system that no longer can deliver in a timely manner. They used to have to deliver within 6 days, and now I think it's gone to 14 days. So the whole period has expanded. So you as candidates need to know we don't have a 3-week voting period anymore. We have a 4.5 week voting period. I don't know whether that's good or bad for candidates. You're able to campaign up to and including election day. And a number of people say, oh, my signs have to come down on midnight the day before. That means all campaigning stops on election day. That's not the case. You can actually still be campaigning on that morning of election day. Special votes are available at certain locations, so there's 7 locations that are in the handbook of where special votes can be located. So that's if you haven't got an ordinary vote in the mail, you may have moved house, you may have just turned 18, you may be on an unpublished roll, any of those things, you can go and obtain a special vote. During the voting period, voting return schedule, so I think I've got one showing. That just shows the wards and the number of votes that have been returned for that particular ward or area of the council. So we don't have who's winning or not, because we don't. We just have the numbers that have come in so that we can gauge, well, on day 5 we're at 15% and day 10 we're at 25%, that sort of indication to see how things are going. Candidates, please do not collect votes from electors. Do not go around rest homes and that sort of thing saying, can I take your vote as a community service to help help voter turnout and get it into the system. Do not do that. You never know who's watching you, and allegations can fly about, you took votes from this rest home and how do I not know that they were not interfered with? So my advice is don't go there. Let the rest homes deal with collection and delivery or individuals to me. Voters can post back their votes through the mail system. I think the last recommended date is Tuesday the 7th of October. But they can hand deliver their vote. We're now having 16 locations across the district. We're calling them vote boxes, where you can actually go in and hand deliver your vote right up until midday on Saturday the 11th. So a lot more places that you can go, because previously if you have missed the post on the 7th, there were only a few locations. Now we've got 16 of them across the district to help with turnout. They're going to be in supermarkets and libraries and all sorts of places, and again they're listed in the handbook. So voting closes at 12 noon Saturday the 11th of October. Again, that's a sharp 12 sharp. There's no if, buts and maybes. At 12 noon, those vote boxes, the voting will have closed. So don't come running in at 5 past with ran out of petrol or any of those excuses. I've heard them all. You've got to get it in by 12 o'clock. Results, we'll have progress results out on election day afternoon. This will be about 90% of the votes cast. So that will be everything except the hand-delivered votes in the morning, Saturday morning, and special votes. So a point there is, do not assume progress results are final. Outcomes do change, particularly with the regional council, which is using STV. Every vote makes a difference with STV. So if you've got a close run, be very, very careful. Don't go out and party on Saturday night on a close progress result. Even on the preliminary results on the Sunday, when we release those, that includes all the Saturday morning votes that have come in. but it still excludes special votes. So you've still got a really close one. You just got to hang in there until the final declaration is made. So all results will be available on Council's website. Final results expected by the Friday the 17th. Might be the Thursday, but we'll expect no later than Friday. And elected members take office the day after the public notice. So if we declare our election on Friday the 17th, elected members will take office on Saturday the 18th. And then there will be an inaugural meeting where they'll be sworn in, which will be, have we got a date for that?
30th of October.
30th of October, yeah. And region?
We're still confirming us. That'll be the end of.
Be similar, yeah. So just some resources, candidate handbook, which I'll be pushing, really full of interesting information. Electoral legislation, there it is there. A lot of it is included in the handbook. The pre-election report, that has been mentioned already today. Attend a council meeting. Might be a bit of an eye-opener if you've never attended a council meeting. Really interesting to see the dynamics and the subject matter and agendas and reading. It can be really interesting. Or talk to our staff member. That's a good way. And that's just me there. That's my contact details. Happy to take queries any time, well, within reasonable time, about on my phone or email. Got an 0800 number there, email. Anything you want to talk to me about, happy to have a discussion. And my Deputy Electoral Officer is Jules down here, and again, he's more than happy to be available for any questions if you're passing by, and he's just here includes it as well. Right.
Thank you for that, Dale. That was a really thorough and professional, well thought out presentation. I just write my notes down on a bit of paper, and I think it's appropriate for this sector where we're talking. I'm here as the only unelected, or we're not standing the next election. And the first thing I want to say to any potential candidate is, be yourself. I never do slides. I do come and I tell it from the heart. Some people it probably drives you nuts. Don't care. I stood, I got voted, I got the mandate. If it's not good enough, I'll get unvoted. I'll be out and it's gone. Be yourself. And another thing that I've seen in potential candidates is, don't be a gunner. If you're thinking of doing it, and you talk yourself out of it, you'll always talk yourself out of it. Put your name forward, and the public will either vote on your credit, or they won't. But whatever you do, don't hesitate. If you think you're going to do it, roll the dice, because you might think, oh, do I fit into this? We don't want you to fit in. That's perfect. If democracy is truly going to succeed, it has to have the true cross-section of society. We want every representation reflected in our council. And what we do miss is there's too many of me there at the moment, if you ask me. So let's get a bit of diversity and a bit of fresh blood, and don't feel that, oh, would I fit in? If you come, you put your name up and the people vote for you, you're in. You're part of the team. So that's the only bit of advice I have at the start. I want to focus now on, because there is a distinct difference, I believe, in running for councillor and running for mayor. And I want to run through a few things. First up with councillor. So the encumbrance on a councillor now has changed totally in the last 5 odd years. Even a short time ago, it was a fair commitment, but it was one that you could juggle with others in your life and you'd get by. But the recent years of expectation is you will get it, and you will get it in lumps, and you will really struggle to carry 2 jobs, or to, if you think, oh, I'm going to come in here and this is going to be an afterthought or a secondary job, you're going to get caught out. It comes in lumps. So if you put your name forward and you are successful, on October the 12th, Dale said, don't party up. I said, yeah, don't. I say do party up. It'll be the last chance you'll have till Christmas, so you may as well give it a shot. The cramming between that day you get elected and Christmas time is obscene. There's induction, there's the hurtling in. There is so much happening in local government at the moment, and so much complexity to what's happening. There are unique challenges to our district. I'm speaking on behalf of Clutha District Council. You've got to familiarise yourself with the bigger picture, the big issues, and those challenges that are not only in your face for Clutha right now, but the ones that are coming. It's all right for an old boomer like me that's been doing it since 1998. You just sort of get in the flow. But when you come, on your marks, get set, go, it is almost an impossibility to expect that you're going to be up to speed at Christmas time. You will have to do thousands of hours. Just give me a nod, councillors, you're not allowed to talk. When I say that first year, it's going to be thousands of hours before you even start feeling that you might have the flow of it. It's ungodly. So start thinking of that as an expectation. I'm not trying to put you off, but I was told by one successful councillor actually last time. I thought it was only one day every 6 weeks. How's that going to work out? So get to Christmas time, then we start building as an organisation to the first annual plan. Remember the sequence, because a lot of people don't. You do one long-term plan, the long-term vision goal setting for your council. That is the second year. The other 2 years are annual plans where there is only variations on your big long-term plan. So you start with an annual plan, and really it's training school. You learn, you're getting yourself ready and you're learning for the big one. The workshops that you'll have to do leading up to that, it's sort of mid-year that it might start dropping off, but February, March, April, May, the workshops start building up. So you've got council every 6 weeks. You've got, so it's in the cycle of community boards, 2 weeks later, committee meetings, 2 weeks later, council, every 6 weeks. So as a councillor, you will definitely have the Thursday and 2 weeks later the Thursday. So 2 Thursdays out of 6 weeks. You think, well, that's sweet, book that in. No, you can't, because there's going to be meetings virtually every night as your individual community starts. I want to talk to you, I want you to come to this meeting, I want you to be there. So your nights are going to be filled up, your days are going to be filled up. If you walk down the street, your afternoon will be filled up, and it's a tonic and it's neat that you're engaging with the public, that it's non-stop. And pretty much after the annual plan, it would then be only the matters that arise until you start building up for the long-term plan, which will probably come in. The long-term plan is such a big deal now that your obligations will start coming in a couple of workshops before Christmas. So please really have a talk with the staff, have a look at the meeting schedules and that to get an idea of what it's expected for your time to be a councillor. And then double it. Because when you go to a meeting, if you haven't at least done 10 hours reading or something like that, don't come to the meeting. You're going to get caught out. A number of times, I can remember a councillor might have even done it myself, maybe once, where you ask a question and then you find that the answer's on the next page. You don't do that too often before you realise that you really have to prepare. As a councillor, it's neat. You do get immersed in the issues of your community, and you can start really focusing on the ones that make your ticker go. That's why we're here, isn't it? There's also the opportunity, as you become a member of local government, that you can start spanning out. You're not just here to represent your community. You've got to have a wider look at the issues. You've got to start building the relationships. Did I know Lloyd? Oh, hold on, I do know Lloyd, but for another reason. But from an ORC perspective, how do I get to know the ORC people if I don't engage on a wider basis? How do I know what the bigger issues are for New Zealand? So I encourage any councillor, if you think, I'm just going to do it for Clutha and that LGNZ, I don't know about that. Good luck with that. Because you'll be immersed in your bubble and you won't really know what's happening with that until it punctures. So there's so many things that you can do. There's certainly, we have, I really love the relationship that we have with our iwi partners, and that can evolve in so many ways. So if that's a perspective that you're particularly into, there's development that can go there. And also there's on that first meeting, the mayor will start delegating to you. You've got to join the, give me something, what is it? The showgrounds committee, or you're on Tapoma's group. So once you're assigned to that by the mayor, you know, you come, say, Councillor McCrosty was assigned to Tapoma, and in 2 years' time, Tapoma came and they're asking for money. Normally that would be a conflict of interest, but you have these responsibilities and you have to get involved. You have no choice. The mayor told you. So when the mayor tells you, you get involved, you have to go to their meetings, you get it. But when they come, you haven't got a conflict of interest. I'm not conflicted, I was there, I was doing my job, I will vote with my heart, and just like any other councillor, I might have a bit more information. So there are tasks ancillary to the councillor's job that you will get assigned to. If you're from Lawrence or West Otago, you will have a community board that they'll drag you in. You'll have to get involved in that. In fact, you probably won't get in if you're not involved in that over there. There's the likes of Kai Promotion, and each town has their own groups where you're probably going to get roped in. So being a councillor can be busy. I think what was the remuneration?
About 41.
45 or something.
Yes,
We're
41.
just transitioning from a 14 councillor council down to a 9. And a lot of that was because the 14 councillors will tell you, the expectation, the time, that it's a full-time job. It's virtually a full-time job, but we're doing 25,000 or something at the moment. It's not working. We've got to start. The number of times I've been really embarrassed when we're going into a long-term plan, and I'm sorry guys, it's the third day this week I've got to drag you in for a workshop. So we're hopeful that it just makes it workable, whether we go down to 9. But the workload and the commitments will come up as well. So that's something that you've also got to think of. I'm only guessing what 14 to 9 is, but it stands to reason that the workload of the individual goes up. Then there's, because I'll flow on quickly now into the mayoralty, but there's a tactic as such. If you're thinking right now that you're going to run for the mayoralty, my brother did it. My brother stood on the blind and got in, so yeah, it can be done. But there's a difference, I believe, and this isn't an arrogant statement, it's just an observation after so many years in politics, that there is a difference in where you are to put your name forward as a councillor or put your name forward as a mayor. Because if you're going to put your name forward as a mayor, you better have a vision and you better have a strategy. If you don't, you will get caught out. I have loved my time as mayor. It's obviously life defining. It is my life. It's challenging, and that's why I love it. But there was reasoning behind it. I've openly, people probably, I've got a social agenda. Openly, I've got a social agenda and I've got a financial agenda. I come from a rugged start in life where my own stupidity caused me to be long-term unemployed or underemployed, and I only found my way out through the good people like Ken's dad giving me a chance in the sharing sheds, managed to get a farm, and then I started thinking about what my debt to society was for the damage that I did in my younger day. So it probably has given me a rock that others don't have. It's a rock and a bog all at the same time. It's a confusion that goes on in my head, but that's why I stood. And you've got to have your reason to stand, and you've got to have your goals. I saw my district through the lens of a person that had been unemployed and managed to own a farm. So your cross-section of society. I saw the place that I loved all my life was draining the young ones. What did everyone say about Cleveland? Cleveland sucks. Actually, they said Cleveland was shit. That was almost getting bad. No, it's not. This is the place I love. The young ones saw no future. We had a population of 19,000 that had plummeted down to 16,400. The young saw no future. It was all the young. We were left with old. So when I started to, do I run for mayor? I had to be able to articulate what was going on in my head, but it had to actually mean something moving forward. I wanted to see a community that was developed by embracing at the base and lifting, putting the most vulnerable, putting the hugs around the most vulnerable, and the essence of that is developed into, thanks to the teamwork that Steve and I did, where I'd talk and he'd think. It's usually the way it is between a CEO and a mayor, I suppose, hope it is. But what I wanted to achieve in the district had to be articulated in our strategic plan, and that was for living and working. Why do you want to live in Clutha? If you're vulnerable, the likes of Titanic, get a job, get a house, get a life. You come here on the boned out, put your head down and get a job, get a house, get a life. That was Clutha. It was a weakness in Kai, but it was a strength in Kai. So I've been really proud of the achievements that I've had, but that's not to say that it hasn't been without faults, but it is life defining. And for anyone that's thinking of having a go at mayor, it's the same as being a councillor. Step up, see how you go, see whether the public wants it, because it's a beautiful job, but it's a taxing job. There was a time, this might surprise you, but I'm getting older. There was a time where I used to lap up 70, 80 hours. I can't do it now, but it'll take every God-given minute if you're stupid enough to give it, and if you don't love it, then you won't be able to give it. So that's basically the essence of, there's enough there that will tease out anything else you want through the questions. But I think if you've got it here that you're thinking you want to be a councillor, just have the gumption to put your name forward. Society will work out whether you're up to it or not, and give it a go.